Starting with multiplication, again we are following the same multiplication rules we had on the previous sheet, where two positives lead to a positive, two negatives lead to a positive as well. When the signs are different, that's when we end up with a negative. So we're going to use order of operations to take care of this, and we'll start with the left two numbers, and we'll do two different multiplications here. You could do it all in one step if you're comfortable with that. 2 times negative 3, well, a positive times a negative is going to make a negative. Alright, and the result of 2 times negative 3 was negative 6. We now multiply that by negative 4. Well, this is 2 negatives, so the result's going to be positive, and 6 times 4, 24. And that's about all there is to it. If you follow the steps of order of operations, moving left to right, and you use your rules of signs up here, you should be good. And we move on to division, which is very closely related to multiplication. It's the opposite operation, so it follows the same rules. The two positives make a positive, and so on, that we've looked at in the last two examples. We're going to do this division of negative divided by another negative. So the result's going to be positive, and we're dividing 24 by 3. The result then is positive 8. And that's about it. Just one note, we could also see this question set up like this, and we haven't covered a lot of fraction material yet, but a fraction is just a division. In fact, that's what that fraction bar means, is that this is a division question, and so we would do the division the same way, that a negative divided by a negative makes a positive, and 24 divided by 3 is 8, and that's it. Alright, we move on to exponents. Although these look like they might be the same question, there's a major difference here. So we're going to take a look at what exponents mean and what they affect. And the exponent affects what it's directly next to. In the first case, that happens to be a bracket containing the number negative 3. So if we were to rewrite this question as negative 3 squared is another way of saying negative 3 times negative 3. And we would move on to do the multiplication. We would get positive because 2 negatives make a positive, and 3 times 3 makes 9. Over here on the right hand side, we've got a different situation. We've got an exponent 2 that's going to affect the number it's directly next to, which is 3, but does not affect that negative sign out front because it's not contained within a bracket. So the exponent only affects what it's directly next to. If that happens to be a bracket, it affects the whole bracket. So let's go over here and see what this question would look like if we interpret what it really means. And negative 3 to the power of 2, well, we could rewrite this as negative 3 times 3, because that's what 3 squared means, right? And that negative sign sticks out front. 3 times, well, negative 3 times positive 3 is one way to look at it, and we could call that negative 9. So the results are actually on the opposite side of 0. One's at positive 9 and the other is at negative 9. Two very different situations. And one more that I think is worth looking at, and then just a quick tip on multiplying ones using exponents. So first of all, this is different than the previous two examples. What we know so far is that the 2 exponent is going to affect all of negative 3 because it's within a bracket. What it is not going to affect is this negative sign out front. Okay, so let's see what this ends up looking at. Previously, when we squared negative 3 without that other negative out front, we got positive 9. Let's see if we get something different. Alright, so if we were to translate this and write out all the steps, negative 3 squared means negative 3 times negative 3. Alright, and if we did order of operations, there's a couple of different ways you might choose to go about this. I'm going to say that those 2 negatives multiplied together become positive, and 3. And here we go, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 this time instead of positive 9. So you get a very different result. We now look over here at -1, there's a bit of a trick with multiplying -1 by exponents. If the exponent is an even number and the -1 is inside a bracket, the result's always going to be positive, because 2 negatives make a positive, 4 negatives would make a positive, 6 would. If it's -1 to the power of an odd number, like 3, the result is going to be a negative number. So this would apply if the exponent was 3, 5, 7, 9. Any odd numbers will give us a negative result. Any even numbers will give us a positive result when we're talking about squaring all of -1.